Cougar fans, use this radio station tomorrow morning for important news updates. Listen to Utah's most important radio station tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you here on Cougar Nation. We're taking your phone calls, 801-575-8255, and it's sponsored by Central Bank. Let's waste no time. Welcome in Todd from West Valley. Todd, do you think these bowl games are important?
How you doing?
Doing good, Todd. What's up?
I believe this bowl game is an opportunity to get an 11th win, and if you don't think it matters between 10 or 11, ask the players. They would like to go out on a high note, especially against Colorado. Now, I'm glad we didn't play in the Big 12 championship against them because we probably would have laid an egg. But it's still a game, and BYU's going bowling. I do have one question for you. I didn't hear it, but what bowl is Utah going to? Oh, yeah, I thought so. Nah.
Good stuff. Of course the players are going to care, and that's what I love about the program is they care about satisfying the fans. I'm coming to you from the perspective of what college football is going to view about this, and how do you climb that mountain to being a respected program, and 10 or 11 is not going to matter in this case.
I think 11 wins, though, if they strung that together a couple years and consistently put together a winning product. Look, if BYU,
if they keep winning 10 or 11 and we keep missing the Big 12 championship game, rip my eyeballs out and take my ears off, because that is you're wishing pain on us, Mitch.
Look, honestly though, who cares what the national media thinks? Like they have no comprehension of what college football fans actually want. You hear this disconnect where they're just devaluing the Big 12. They don't even watch the games. They keep talking in these points of, well, BYU beat SMU when Jennings wasn't the quarterback. He played all but 3 possessions for SMU. Yep. And it was by design going into that game that Rhett Lashley said it'll be 2 drives for Stone, 2 drives for Jennings, and then we'll evaluate. And then BYU just wrecked Stone, and then Jennings took off from there. They don't even point that out.
Yep.
They just think, it's just like, you know what? Forget them. Just focus on you and go get that 11th win. And that's what I want to see from this BYU team. Kickoffs on Saturday, December 28th, BYU and the Buffs, Alamo Bowl. We'll have extended pregame beginning at high noon on KSL News Radio from San Antonio. Cannot wait for that. BYU will head down to San Antonio coming up on Christmas Eve, and they'll spend Christmas down on the Riverwalk in the Alamo Dome. Let's get out to the phone line again. We'll welcome in Peter from Midvale. Peter, what do you say about this BYU football team and the season?
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking my call. To me, it's been a Cougar fan for 30-plus years. It feels like a losing season to me. The difference between what they could have had and what they have now are miles and miles. What they could have had was a historic season. Not just, but they blew it when they lost to a 3-6 Kansas team. Are you kidding me? Losing to Arizona State, okay, fine. We get to the Big 12, maybe they win, and then they go to the playoffs. But losing to a 3-6 Kansas team, I just hold my head down and I go, you guys blew it. They had a historic season in their hands. 40 years ago, we won the national championship. It would have been 40 years, and this is the first year of the college playoffs. We would have been in the first college playoffs. Even if we didn't win the Big 12 championship, we would have probably held a good rankings to be able to be one of the open slots. But we're just going to a bowl game. That's great. And Colorado's that's going to be a fun game. I'll watch it. I'll cheer for them. But back in my mind, I'm sad, because of what they gave up, what they lost is so, it's depressing. It's mind-numbing to me what they lost. And that's all I got to say.
Thanks for the call, Peter. That Kansas game is definitely going to live in infamy. Let's call it what it is. That's going to be one of those games where you just look back and just revisit as a Cougar fan. It's going to be probably haunting memory for so many years. It's going to be many what ifs because that pooch punt just ruined what could have been a playoff season, Matt.
Man, that was a great call. That's exactly how I felt when I was in Arlington last week, and I was walking up to that stupid AT&T Stadium, going to a meaningless football game that I didn't give a rip about. Yeah, it's well said because, look, BYU fans are behind this team. There is unmatched support for Cougar football, and I love seeing it. This fan base is fantastic. It's the reason we have the show, quite frankly, because this fan base is so passionate about BYU football. But everything Peter said is exactly right. And it is he did a better job of even me articulating kind of some of the disappointment that I'm carrying into this bowl game, where it's hard to get stoked about win number 11 when in the grand scheme of things, history, as Peter said, was in its grasp, Mitch. It was there for the taking. If you could just defend Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and they were unable to do so, and now we're talking about, it's going to be the Alamo Bowl, and it could be the most watched, whatever, because the chasm between the bowl games and the playoff is bigger than the sport has ever seen. It's bigger than the BCS and the bowl games. It's bigger than the 4-team and the bowl games, and that is a sting that's not going to go away before this bowl game, and it is, in my opinion, and I think Peter and other BYU fans, it is kind of affecting how you feel about this game and how you're going to feel about this season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that. I let those feelings die, though, at halftime in Tempe because that BYU team flat out no-showed and didn't look anything like a playoff team when the playoff was still on the line, and they didn't show up. And so I just said, you know what? I understand the flaws of this team. They still made a valiant comeback, nearly got it done at Arizona State, and had a wild finish to pull it off potentially, but they missed their opportunities twice, and they lived on the edge in some of the games. And I don't want to be that person that always says, well, they had so many close calls. Well, they had some blowouts too. Give them credit on that front too.
Georgia had plenty of close calls too.
Absolutely, and I just I think BYU had their flaws. I wish that. And all these teams in college football do.
How do you help? How do we get to this point, Mitch? Help us. Help the me's. Help the Peters. How do we let that go?
Because you just look at this BYU team, and they have their deficiencies. They don't have the superstar power that just can carry you into the playoffs. I mean, you look at the themes in these teams, these 12 teams that are in the playoffs. They've all just got bona fide superstars on these teams, like Jennings at SMU. He's legit. I mean, you watch him in that ACC title game. He was outstanding, manufacturing that comeback effort for the Mustangs. And you look at Georgia, I mean, ETN at running back. There's so much talent on these teams. And BYU's got talent too. But I think BYU's top-end talent is not as good as those teams in the playoff. And I think that's a nice motivation, again, and an example for Kalani and this staff to realize we got to improve the top-end talent. The top 22 at BYU's got to get better. You've got good guys. You've got players that can win in the Big 12 at a high level. But to break through and get the title, you got to have someone emerge like a Cam Scadaboo, where you are just a guy that puts the team on his back. Who is that guy for BYU right now? I don't think they have that. They've got some moments, these individual performances that are great, but week after week, it didn't happen. Whereas Scadaboo, you were ASU, you knew every week when that guy's healthy, he is showing up and he's delivering, and you've got to have that to be a playoff team. And BYU doesn't have that right now. And they got to identify that maybe this game can give you that glimpse of that superstar potential. And hopefully it's someone that carries over into 2025. But I just think I'm okay with where BYU stands in college football, and they made significant strides from a season ago, and I'm willing to just kind of embrace this bowl game, move forward, and say, you know what, 11-2 would be one heck of a season for BYU, and let's see more in the years to come.
Well, maybe one day me and Peter will get there, but for now we're still just wallowing in self-pity and sadness.
Understand, and look, we appreciate all of you in Cougar Nation. Subscribe to the show if you miss any part of the program. We will be back next week. Maybe some BYU basketball talk, a little bit of crossover action next week here on Cougar Nation on KSL News Radio.